Sounds good. All right, we're going to get rolling here with cut 2 at Bonfire 2022. And concluding with, as I said in the posts, the first look at the new stack site. And it's going to look nothing like a stack site. Spoiler alert. But I think this is important that we have a good look at it and we see what it's like when it hasn't been a stack site before, and we see just how much work the students do on top of building Bonfire, handling all of the infrastructure and getting that stuff set up. It is really, I've watched the evolution, and it's shocking to come out to a new stack site and realize just how much you've been taking for granted. So that'll be a good look. We'll jump into that and talk about some cool stuff that is going to be coming up with following the developments on stack sites. Some things I'm really excited about. People that do. One person in particular who does a much better job than me at the kind of stuff that I want to share with y'all. But we will definitely get to that. And without further ado, we are not going to have another 3-hour session tonight. That is not happening. This is one day of cut, not 4 different events. And it was a good one, as all cuts are. But we're going to plow through it efficiently. But the first thing I'm going to do, as is custom, is did you hear that? Pop the top on a bourbon, specifically Chimney Hill. Like I said last week, I'll say their name out loud because they gave me a bottle. Why'd they give me a bottle? Because I asked for one. Why'd I ask for one? Because I've already drank it and I already knew I liked it, and I wanted to tell people how much I liked it. So now I can. Chimney Hill, delicious, local, Texas, outstanding. Let's roll. Oh, I'm such an idiot. This will be quick. We'll flash through the ones that I picked. Thank you for bearing with me as you were looking at absolutely nothing. I'm going to have to edit that in post. All right, so we saw the red pot log. We got our junior red pots waiting, as we talked about, 2 junior red pots with the designated upcoming head stacked. He's at stack site, so, and we are going to see that. We're going to jump ahead to stacks or see stack site at the end of the day, but he's at stack site handling unload. We saw brown pots running, and I'll just so you see, this is what everybody else saw I saw that I screwed up. Right, it's just hard to get the guys running, and there's a brown pot doing brown pot things, and 2 brown pots doing brown pot things. And then we're off into the parking lot. Again, it's so nice to see seniors getting to be seniors, especially towards the beginning of the season, because last you saw a senior red pot, they were still, of course, junior red pots, and that's a different life. So it's nice to see them just hanging out with people. Now this is Kruger doing their calisthenics. Yeah, this is professional. Everybody's real professional. It's real squared away out here. I'm sure that helps. And at this point, everybody's running back. So they've taken their tour of the woods, been given their assignments, their directions for the day, and now they're running back to be the first ones to get their crews and get back out to the woods. Or in the case of Walton, to get to load. or spoiler alert, in the case of Kruger, to get to help with load. I wondered how this one turned out. A little rough, right? The light, this sun coming up was cool there, but I wasn't able to do anything with it while they were moving. Oh well. Try it again next week. I can sit there and play with it, I'm sure, but you learn your lessons if you just embrace your mistakes, and that's what we're going to do. The sooner you make a mistake, the sooner you learn. All right, so FHK marching into the woods with their yellow pot. Now, crowbars are a thing that, axe handles are still, of course, a thing. But at some point, crowbars really became a big thing. And I don't remember when that was. But now, they have crowbars. Again, they still have the axe handles. But you see crowbars for leveraging, moving logs around and whatnot. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I kind of got to go back and see if I can. I don't remember there being crowbars even, 10 years ago when I started taking these photos. I don't remember at all any crowbars from my time, but they're a thing. So, and you see them at stack. You certainly see them at stack. Especially if a yellow pot has a crowbar, especially you'll find a stack at crowbar or a crowbar at stack hammered down with all but a few inches sticking up out of the ground, courtesy of the brown pots. One of the reds walking in. Famous jumpsuits. Leggett heading into the woods. The light is always great at the beginning of the season. It's right about the time that people are walking into the woods that you get the really great light. So that's nice. Oh, we got a question on the Texags thread. Somebody asked, can we get Dan Campbell to come down and speak for this burn? That's a very good question. Now, I am 99.9% certain that this year's speaker is squared away, and it is. I'm really. I don't want to say 100%, and I'm certainly not going to say any names because I don't want to jinx it. But they're good. They're very, very good. Going to be better than last year's speaker. Bonus points if anybody remembers who last year's speaker was. But Dan Campbell has certainly been bounced around. As somebody to be a speaker. And, we have talked to some folks in the past and prior years who would be able to make that introduction. And it would it would certainly I have confidence that at some point that'll happen. At least, I have confidence. I have no idea about what Coach Campbell would think about it. But, and for those of you who don't know, Dan Campbell gave a historic and memorable and infamous speech some years ago. We'll leave it at that. So we got Schumacher coming in. I try to keep track. One of the things that I do in going through this process, this culling through the photos process, is try and keep track of, all right, everybody's coming out here and everybody's working. And I'm not some bleeding heart. I'm not going to go around and make sure that everybody has 30 photos per crew or whatever. But I do want to make sure that, nobody gets left out. And so I went into this weekend wanting to focus. I felt like I could have play a little catch up with FHK and Schumacher, which has nothing to do with their people or motivation. It probably has everything to do with the fact that there was a lot of walking. So I play catch up this week. But Schumacher's that dorm is right next door to the dorm I was in, Walton. And oh gosh, we had so much fun with Schumacher back in the day. I remember we scrambled eggs in their washing machine one time. But that's another story. One of the Browns walking with Ace. Shoot, if I'm going to get to sit here and enjoy this delicious Chimney Hill, I think that we should probably try and work out some kind of endorsement deal for Ace and his new food he's on, which I swear I thought Ace was going to make it out to like 2 cuts this year. He's just old, y'all. He's 14 years old. Ace's first bonfire was 2008. 2008, and he came out a few times in 2008. Back then, I was still kind of only a few years removed from my time, and you want to get some distance there. But I came out to visit, and Ace came out a few times and just fell right in and loved it. And I remember I was the speaker in 2008, which is another story. I was just a backup pinch speaker. I wasn't their first choice. But I remember I was leaving with the dog and somebody with Ace, and somebody was like, "How dare you bring a dog out here? It's just so awful that who could possibly bring a dog?" Little did that individual know that Ace had already done a good bit more than most everybody, and that was in 2008. Y'all, that's a lot of bonfires. So point being, he's doing well, and it's nice to see him getting around and then passing out in the seat the entire way home and then for the rest of the weekend. So I spent some time in the Core Woods. We'll see. I made a couple trips. Because the Core started out last week. They started out strong and motivated, and I wanted to see, does it stick? And lo and behold, the Core didn't just retain, they brought out more. So that was fun to come in and witness. Now here's something that's personally close to my heart. This is K2. A couple guys from K2, and we talked last week about how some outfits, there's a ebb and flow to the whole thing, and that's normal. And then an outfit or a crew or anything is not going to be huge all the time, and there's going to have years where they come and go. And well, K2 had huge years and provided many red pots, and then for a couple years they dropped off a little bit, and here we had 2 motivated K2 guys, and so I had to take this picture. If nothing else, I'm sending this photo to some of my old K2 buddies from the class of '03. And, you know, what these guys told me, and not knowing them personally yet, I'm not going to get into, you know, detail that would indicate who they are. I don't know how. I just met them, so we'll just say this: they're motivated for Christopher Lee Hurt. That's their motivation, which is incredible. Christopher Lee Hurt was a member of K2 who passed away in '99, and what is bringing these K2 members out is that memory. And you see that time and again, these outfits that that make their work, you know, a living memorial. Not anything done in spite of, but rather because of. So anyway, that motivates me. Now, Schumacher's got their little Axbox situation, which I think is probably the most intelligent Axbox situation out there. It travels well. Neely. Stopped by Neely a couple times. I actually swung a little bit on a tree for Neely. And was coming up on FHK, and they actually got laying down trees faster than I expected them to. So I was walking up on Neely and found them about to fall one. So, you know, this was the best I got. But I tried to get something in the foreground that indicated what had just happened. I don't know. I'll have to look at that with fresh eyes tomorrow, see if that works. But, you know, everybody's first kill, you got to document it. Honestly, photos of your first kill are like photos of your child's school program. You're never going to look at them again. That's not what you're going to remember your first kill with, is a photo. It's the chip. And here we're digging and topping the tree. And I'm playing around again while I'm there and while the sun's there. And again, playing with the equipment that, as we talked about last week, your sport makes possible. I walked around for years with just a basic D5000 and what lens came with that. And I loved it. And then, you know, your support on Patreon and through buying prints, well, that turned into a D750, thanks to Thomas Campbell, notorious and incredible Aggie photographer, for his recommendation on that. And so then you got the D750, and I got a 28-300 lens so that I would never have to change the lenses out and zoom in and zoom out and all this, which is well and good, but there's limitations, and your support this summer made it possible for me to get some prime lenses and some really good stuff on an auction, because I'm never going to put new equipment in the woods. I'm just not going to do it. I'm always going with something used, just because I know that a heartbreak is one widowmaker away. So I try to be smart about and patient with looking for equipment, and I found some lenses that I feel really good about what I'm able to do with them. So again, thank you to everybody who supports on Patreon and through buying prints. Digital photos are cool and everything, but man, when you see some of these prints, and I like to imagine when I send a print, package it up, put it in the mail, I like to imagine that that's going to wind up on somebody's wall one day, and then somebody's going to say, tell me about that. And then the person who asked that question 4 hours later is going to be saying, that was a whole heck of a lot of stories. Because that's what you get with Bonfire. Anyway, so long story short, thank y'all. There is what I'm after. Dicking and topping a tree there. That's the one I'm after. But yeah, thanks everybody for your support and for putting my photos on your wall. This is the Virgin Stripe, and this is actually one of last year's crew chiefs from Lechner. So he's being sarcastic, putting a Virgin Stripe on his old and experienced leg. Here's one of the Browns. I'd made a joke about him in the woods a couple weeks ago. And he told me going into the woods today, he said, Dion, and I was just joking, but it was something about relaxing or sitting down or something like that. And he said, Dion, I'm not gonna be lazy today. And so I made sure to get a picture of him just standing there. That's what that is. And that one is definitely going on the web. Now we're still in FHK woods. We got one of the tree chiefs working on a back wedge. So, the tree always falls for the uninitiated. The tree always falls on the front wedge. Should, by design, all according to plan, fall on the front wedge. And so when you start the back wedge, you don't go back to the front. And you set your back wedge just a little bit higher than the front wedge. See, it's here. They're going to try and work it down a little bit more. You don't want it lower than the front wedge. You don't want it too much higher. This is a little high against the front wedge, but they're going to work it down. But if you're too low or too high, you run the risk of this sort of becoming the new front wedge and then the tree falling in the wrong direction. But you'll see they're working it down. And down, right? So they're coming down to meet that front wedge. And he gets it. There's a good bit of razzing going on this tree, I remember. Good bit of trash talk. Love to hear it. We're in Kruger Woods. Clearly more light here. I think I did better with the light here. Sometimes it takes me a second to get my bearings in new light. So, but Leggett was back with Kruger. And so Leggett, one of the Leggett chairs here is calling out a log. Is a big long one, and I tried to get that. One of the things I'm learning how to navigate with my new lens is that I can't go as wide as with my 28-300, which is still a peach. Let me tell you that Nikon 28-300. I'm not some lens nerd or whatever. If it feels good to you, then that's the lens for you. If the camera feels good, that's the camera for you. But I really like the 28-300 because I could hear. I didn't back up enough. I couldn't back up enough to get the entire length of this log. So I had to cheat and sort of get behind it. But it was a long one. Spicy, as they say. I think the first time I heard somebody call a log spicy was 2000, and it was the year before we were cutting, and the year before the students were cutting in these woods. So 22, 21, 20, it was 2019, I believe, was the first time I heard somebody call a log spicy. And, they had put the log down, and the student turned to me and said, well, this one was spicy. Like, I knew what that meant. And I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? And it's just one of those things that apparently, they probably said it for the first time the year before, and then they said it for a second year in a row. And as far as they knew, Lawrence Sullivan Ross used to call a log spicy. So, but that's when they explained to me that a spicy log is one that has fire ants in it, which makes sense. That's a great term. I love that term, spicy. Yeah. That Jacob commented fire ants. Yeah. I eventually got her to tell me what it was, but I was confused for a second. At first I was just going to go with the whole, yeah, right. I know what you mean. But then finally I was just like, no, I gotta know what that means. What is that? She goes, fire ants. Oh yeah. So here was a roll. When they put the log down, you call for binds and rolls. And a bind is if anybody's got their hand or anything stuck up underneath. And a roll is if the log is showing any tendencies to want to roll one way or the other. And you see them calling that the roll is this way. And so then you clear out that side. And everybody on that side clears out. And then you control the roll. And that's what they're doing there. Roll controlled, break it. That's the question. Roll controlled. Everybody responds, roll controlled. And then the person calling the log says break it. And so from moving logs in the back of the woods, I head back up to the front of the woods where load site is to see more moving of logs. And like I said, in the earlier spoiler alert, Kruger would be out helping today at load. Walton still is the load dormiter, the load specialists, the special operators in this unique field. But in, 5 years ago, Walton was made co-ed, and it was made freshman only, which does make it hard to recruit, bring enough people out to load. And if you think, wow, that seems like if you were to do that intentionally, that would be a really effective way of shutting down the spirit and connectivity and history of a storied and active and independent dorm. If you were to do that on purpose, that would be a good plan. Well, it might have been a good plan. Yes, fall of 17. Thank you, Trenton. I was trying to do my math. Fall of 17. It would be a good plan if you weren't dealing with, Walton. There was a lot of questions at the time. And it wasn't just, this was great to me. This to me said everything I ever wanted to know about Bonfire and about being a Walton guy. Was, it would have been one thing if it was just the Walton guys that were like, what do we do? And this is important to us. And how do we navigate this? And can we still do this job? And all that. it'd be one thing if that's what I heard, and that is what I heard from the Walton guys. And we certainly had talks about it. And the chiefs at the time, they came over here because I'm the oldest Walton guy still in town, and and then we recruited other guys from previous years, and we all talked about it. What do we do? But what really moved me and motivated me was the fact that all of the dorms, and there were even Squadron 17 came out to express their concerns over making Walton freshman only and co-ed. And it was there, even being around the students in their work, I don't know what their experience is necessarily like back on campus or in their regular lives. Frankly, I don't want to know. But it was nice to, I came out to meet them immediately after a meeting where they were going to express their concerns to grown-ups who I knew weren't going to listen to them. So I wasn't going to go listen to that, but I just went to meet them after that. And what walked out of that meeting hall was all of these dorms. Pretty much every single bonfire dorm, and Squadron 17, and maybe another one of the outfits, but probably just Squadron 17. They're the ones that were attached to Walton at the hip. Had come out and said, "Hey, y'all, this isn't right." And that's the thing that really motivated and inspired me. I never had any doubts that Walton would at least find a way to try. But it had never occurred to me that the entire community would rally around them the way they did. And it was beautiful. But then when you thought about it, it's like, well, I mean, it's not really surprising. I think everybody would do it for each other. Anyway, that was the thing. But as with all things, every challenge is an opportunity, and Walton treated it as such. And so today they continue to be the specialists of load. This is all they do. And then other crews will come in and support the effort. Just as some crews are sent to unload, Walton is going to be sent to, or some crews are going to be sent to Walton's neck of the woods. Got some from FHK helping out. And keeping in mind, this is still early in the day. I mean, this is very early in the day. And you could tell it's already not easy. It wears very quickly. Now, among everything else that Bonfire does by hand, right? Cutting down trees with axes and carrying them on your backs and then throwing them onto the trucks by hand. They'll even carve the truck sticks by hand. All right, so these sturdy, well-curated pieces of tree are shaved to fit into the truck by hand. And it's not just for fun either. As somebody who enjoys woodworking and tries to achieve some level of competency, splitting wood is the best way. Using a chainsaw or something like that, you're not going to end up with the strongest pieces of wood to fit into the side of the truck there to be hammered in. And we'll see them being hammered in here in a second. It's actually splitting the wood that does it. So as with everything, taking the time to invest the effort to do it by hand creates a better product, a safer product. And then you pound these things in. And this was cool. I didn't know that I would get this level of detail on this one, but I was afraid that if I froze it too much, that it would just look like that there was a sledgehammer sitting on top of a thing. But here you can see that. That's cool. That's cool. So that gives it away that no, that thing was just hit with the sledgehammer. But I played around with this. I didn't do a lot of this last year. But it was towards the end of the year, I was like, oh, you know what? I never saw them, paid attention to them hitting those things in with the sledgehammer. So I tried to get some of that. But yeah, they're pounding those into the side of the truck, and that's what's going to hold. That's what's going to hold them on. Now on the truck, you're going to have your truck pot, your truck junior red pot. You're going to have brown pots. And in recent years, the green pots jump on the truck too. Upper leadership. And as a junior, you're going to find a way in well-timed ways to do jobs in the sort of way that people pay attention to, and kind of strut your stuff and don't rub it in their face, but just try and set a bar and say, hey, can you do that? And so this junior was trying to, and did effectively, take that sledgehammer work that everybody else was doing and do it harder. He's not even choking up, just keeping both hands there at the base. That's a hard way to do it, and that is not a light sledgehammer. Now somebody called for this chainsaw is not running. For everybody that's gonna cry about it, this chainsaw is not running. It's not even started. Okay. Walton just called for a chainsaw. So the Brown is bringing a chainsaw to where he called for a chainsaw. I used to sweat a little bit, okay, if somebody who's inclined to worry about things were to look at this, how would they feel about it if they didn't understand the complete context? I used to care. And then I realized there's no point caring, because the more you care, the more things that they're going to care about or pretend to care about that they don't understand. So, hell with it. This is funny. Walton Chief calling for a chainsaw and the brown pot heading his way with a completely stopped chainsaw. Now, this is not punitive, what's happening here. When you throw the logs onto the truck, they've just finished the basers on the truck, which is the big logs that you just, there's no truck sticks in the way. We saw they put the truck sticks in just now. So up until this point, that side of the truck has been wide open, and you're just rolling the logs off, pushing them off of your chest down onto the bed of the truck. Well, then you put the truck sticks on, and then you got to throw the logs over the truck sticks onto the truck to the awaiting leadership up there that's going to catch those logs with their bare hands and bodies if necessary. And in order to do that, to literally throw trees at people on the back of a truck, you have to do it synchronized. Everybody at the exact same moment all has to make the same push toward the truck. And so to demonstrate and make sure that everybody understands what is meant by synchronized, everybody gets down. Everybody who is, Walton does it with them, with everybody who's new to doing this. And hell, you even got your senior head stack red pot on his face with everybody. And he's a Walton guy. He was a chief. So he knows this better than anybody. And he's down there with everybody. And the truck will call out to everybody, 1, 2 on the truck. And everybody pushes up. All right, so they'll do. Everybody's down. 1, 2 on the truck. And everybody pushes up. And it's just helping everybody understand we're not playing around. And when we say together, we mean together. So that's what that exercise was. And I ran over to the other side of the truck and got down on the ground and got on my face and took a picture of them through the bottom of the truck they're getting ready for. Now, this is a measuring stick. So, you set, when you're going to toss logs onto the back of a truck, you call for a measuring stick, and it is the most diminutive person out there. I don't know if we're allowed to say short anymore. So diminutive, the most diminutive person out, goes running up and stands next to the truck sticks, and somebody follows behind and marks where their elbow meets the truck stick. And so that's how you measure the truck sticks without coming up with some set number or anything like that. You set the measurement for the body of people who are going to be working on that specific truck. So if this measuring stick goes back to the woods at some point, then there will be a different measuring stick later, so that each individual truck is literally cut to fit who's going to be working on it. And you set those truck sticks for the shortest person. Most diminutive. I'm sorry. It's the 21st century. And here's the brown pot going through and cutting all those truck sticks at the marked height. And now we're bringing the first tosser of this truck. And if this were an oak, it'd be fairly heavy at the beginning of a year. An oak of this size, at the very beginning of the year, when everybody's still figuring it out, this might be a baser at the beginning of the year. But since it's a cedar, which is a total garbage tree, by the way, works great for bonfire, but it is horrible on this part of Texas. Just absolute bloodsucker. Takes all the water out of the dirt. Its foliage and roots poison the dirt that it sits in and kills everything that tries to grow underneath it. Is a huge contributor to wildfires, and it's not supposed to be here. So a dead cedar is a good cedar. But they all burn on stack. So anyway, that's a lighter tree, so you can make that one a tosser at the beginning of the year. There's a good long oak. These woods are incredible, that we've been in these woods for 3 years. This is the beginning of the third season in the same set of woods, and that they still have these really long oaks. I really feel like this has the potential to make one of the biggest first tiers bonfire has seen. First tiers being those innermost tiers that with every log touching the ground, those are 32-foot logs. Now, after you throw a log onto the truck, even while it's being controlled, And I think this illustrates it well. Even while the log is being controlled, you got to keep your hands up. Not keeping your hands up is basically a capital offense. Everybody keeps their hands up and prepares for the possibility of that log trying to whip back. And no one person is allowed to back off. You keep your hands up. Nobody's exempt. I completely missed the focus on that one. But that's cool. And I've said it before, you just have not lived until somebody has thrown a tree at your face, really. And you're hardly ever going to be more dialed in life than right before somebody throws a tree in your face. There. And so, you know, when the log lands, throw a foot over it, throw a leg over it. And if it's a big enough log and it looks jumpy enough, then you dive on it. You throw your body on top of it. It's fun. So we're back in the woods again. B2. B2's got a large crew this year, which is good to see. And, you know, we talked about this sort of thing right here in the podcast episode I had with the Perimeter Fires podcast episode I had with Colonel Carlos Tamez. We talked about the dynamics of non-reg upper leadership leading the Corps, or Corps upper leadership leading non-regs. That's a challenging thing to do. That's two completely different environments. And quite often, what makes them so different is the expectation that they're going to be different. The perception that they're going to be different. Well, this is the Corps. They're going to be like this, that, or the other. And these are non-regs, and they're going to be like this, that, or the other. And competent leadership can go in and sort of break down those perceptions, or at least take a break from being that stereotype and getting to be something different than the way they generally are in their unique environment. And so we had the non-reg head civ spent the day with the Corps and did a really great job helping them navigate things like falling a tree on the back wedge. Right? Told you try to fall it on the front. Sometimes you fall it on the back. If you're hard, sometimes you don't fall it on the back wedge. But, you know, some other people sometimes do fall it on the back wedge. And, you know, this was a butt pot that was calling the tree. And again, the same with crew chiefs. You know, this is just last year. They were just doing what they were told, and now they're telling people. And so there's learning, and you see more back wedges. And you can see one of the contributing factors here to this one. You see the back wedge is a little bit lower. In fact, at this point, it was 1 inch lower here than the front wedge. So that contributes, right? And you learn how to control that pretty quickly. And with good leadership, you're not going to have somebody there, you know, making them question their judgment and whatever. You're going to have somebody like Wyatt there, who was able to talk them through it and say, hey, listen, man, it happens. All right. And here's how you can keep it happening again. So that was really good to see. I told Wyatt about that afterwards, that it was impressive to see a non-reg command so much respect among the Corps and just do really well at bringing them up. Now we moved over to OC. Fairly sizable log here. At this point, we were getting pretty close to the end of my day. So we're about to, the end of my day in the woods. So we're about to move on. We're a couple crews away from moving on to the new stack site. So if you know anybody that wants to see that, of course, this video is going to be up tomorrow morning too. After I edit out that first 15 minutes where I didn't know you couldn't see the photos. Anyway, still salty at myself. But yeah, a couple more crews, and we're going to go look at stack site. But you know anybody that just has to see that before anybody else, you tell them we're like 10 minutes away. Now, when I do these Cull things, like I don't want to look through them beforehand, but this is the one that I used as the thumbnail. I try and flip through real quick and find one for the thumbnail, but I'm not really looking at these photos until we're looking at them together. Stuff like that. It's stuff like that that you see, you can tell, and I'm not the only person that ever took bonfire photos. The bonfire had somebody following them around. It turns out an uninterrupted stream of photographers, almost uninterrupted stream of photographers going all the way back to the 70s and even before, of, you know, one or two people that just stuck with them and got to see stuff. So not being the only one, you look at the photos though, and you see that the people who really understand bonfire and who have done it, who take pictures, they see this. Like you go see Cody Witten at J. Cody's or 12th Gate 12 at Easterwood. And he has photos like this. It's not just, oh, look, that axe looks cool or whatever. It's the photos of somebody who just fell a tree, and that feeling of being gassed, but you know, it's a different, there's different things that are happening out there that a lot of stuff that's beyond that obvious, oh, look at that tree fall and look at that fire burn. We're back with stop through Schumacher, and I want to recognize and commend. Look at that wedge. Look at that wedge. That's great. I just missed catching him swing on it. Just missed it. It was falling down as I was walking up. But that is they got every inch you could get out of that wedge, out of that tree. So good bull. Hell, this stack might be all first tier. Might be all 32 footers. Legner, back in Legner Woods. Now I'm zoomed in here again for people who want to make judgments without context. I'm zoomed in, so I'm well out of the fall path. came up on this tree from Neely that put up a heck of a fight. It really did. And this is the one that I actually got to swing on. I got to do a little work on this one. But this tree was, and you know, obviously some improvements can be made on that wedge, and that's sort of what I got to help out with. Was just trying to clean up that wedge and get that tree to go the way it needed to go. But you know, some trees they try and go straight up. I like that one. They try and go straight up and maybe even lean, but then once they get up to the top, they got their branches going another way, and it can be hard to make heads or tails of where to set your wedge and how to set it to get it to go without hanging up in another tree. And yeah, this tree presented some challenges. So at a certain point, with the weird way all that balance was falling, they went this route. All right, took the crew and moved them to another part of their woods, and then just brought it down in this controlled manner. As happens, and the pride as a leader, you never want that to happen. So it actually becomes a pretty good learning opportunity, learning moment when you have a tree that you put that much work into that for safety reasons has to come down the other way. Now, oh man, I forgot about this. I forgot I did this, and I know why I forgot I did this, because I never want to remember doing this. I have a problem with step ladders. I have a problem standing on a stool. But I wanted to get a photo of the truck coming underneath the overpass at OSR. This is OSR, and this is Highway 6. So y'all. I'm serious. Yes, I was head stack of Bonfire in 2003 and 2004. Yes. And yes, I can't even stand on a step stool without sweating. So, but I'm up here on the overpass because I really want to get a cool shot of the truck going underneath the overpass. And this is me trying to size it up and see what I need to be for exposure and depths of field. Because it took one look that I was like, I don't want to do this again. There's the truck coming. So cut site is in Normandy, like 30-minute drive that way. And so here's the truck coming up on Highway 6. I told them to call me or send me a text when they were getting close. And when I saw them later, they said, we didn't see you. They didn't know that I was actually on top of the overpass. They thought I was going to be underneath it. But here it comes. Oh, this better work. Because like I said, I don't want to do this again. I wanted to get some sense of movement of the truck. This might be too much. I think this is too much. It just looks blurry. I don't know. That one kind of works. I'll take that one. There's the feeder. And now, okay, now we are at, this next will be at stack site. This is stack site. We'll get other views of it. Right now, it looks a whole heck of a lot like the scene next to the truck at the other stack site. This is one of last year's greens. They're throwing chains off the truck to begin the unload. Everybody gets a chance. A pelt was at unload with Hart. Everybody gets a chance to try and throw the chain, which they think is fun and easy. And then they get it hung and embarrass themselves. You put the ramps on. These are shorter, stockier logs, and you chain them up underneath. And all this is for is to, as you're pushing logs off, to direct the logs away from the truck, keep them from rolling back into the truck. You knock loose all but 2, possibly 3, depending on the load of the truck sticks. And you got to wail on them a good bit to get them unjammed. And then you tie ropes on. When you tie the ropes on, you got some folks on the truck, safely back on the truck. And the senior leader on the truck will give everybody the order, and then they take off running to pull on that rope as hard as they can. And you see this one's already come tight. This one's coming tight. And then it grabs you and spins you around. And you just make sure you go with enough momentum, like the old fish wrap, right? You hit it with enough momentum that it breaks free. And you tell them, so important is them building up momentum and speed that you tell them not to stop running until you tell them to stop. And in the case of one of these, it was a pelt. A pelt ran damn near to this tree line. But now we're kind of in a wider view here. Again, this is now stack site. Off to the left of frame is where center pole is going to be. There's nothing out here. There's no power. There's no none of the permanent poles. There's not even a power loop out there. None of the buildings are out here. Nothing's been graded yet. They've picked high and solid ground for the stack itself, but it's still lumpy and unpleasant. The way the site that we're on now was 13 years ago. 13 years ago. So we're continuing to push the logs off here. So the point is there's going to be a lot of work to get this site up. A lot of work. And whatever stack site is now, it took 13 years to get that way. And now they got to do that in like 13 more weeks. So we're going to hear here soon, I think about a week, maybe a little more than a week. We're going to hear soon some information and guidance and some direction from Bonfire's leaders about what all is left to do out there and what has got to be done from scratch out there. And, you know, we're going to put that out to Aggies everywhere and say, you know, when you're in town for games, if you're from town, if you want to make a trip into town, this is all the stuff that Bonfire needs to get done. And while I had the experience myself of being responsible for the extracurricular parts of Bonfire. You know, that being something that was on my checklist, that if I didn't do it, somebody else had to do it. But at the end of the day, it was my responsibility and my buddies, right? That was one of our chores, was the infrastructure of the site itself. Yeah, sure, there's some pride that comes with that. This is sweeping off the trailer. That's a privilege. You get to do that with a handmade broom of grass. But that was a privilege and a sadistic honor to be responsible for parking and traffic and toilets and power and all this sort of stuff. But it was unreasonable. And it was in getting the site that we're on now set up in 2000. And this is now, center pole is right here, right? This is where center pole is going to be. Look around. There's nothing, no infrastructure. But you know, in having had the experience of being responsible for that and seeing so many years of students who were responsible for that whole thing, for setting up all of that stuff, it's just not fair and it's not right. And nobody at Bonfire is ever going to say, well, it's not fair. They're going to suck it up and they're going to do the work. But from the luxuriant position of being on the outside, looking into what they got to do, I can say it's not fair that they got to, I mean, heck, this is the off season here. Power poles, perfectly flat, no grass, solid dirt, smooth. It's just not fair that they should have to do all this work building Bonfire and making sure that parking spaces are as flat as possible, and on and on and on. I mean, it carved out, a home carved out, and now a new home has got to be carved out in 13 weeks. So this is, you know, burn night last year, sunset at burn night last year. Smooth, trim close to the dirt. Clearly there's power run everywhere. So anyway, they're going to get this done. But really, we need to help them get it done. All of us, former students, people who love Bonfire, everybody on the outside. There's a laundry list of things to do. And the students' laundry list is more than long enough. If you've ever built Bonfire before, you know. And this is where you see leaders from years before will show up and they'll look at what's going on out there and they'll say, holy hell, this is way harder than what we ever did. And these are some hard, just tough individuals. They're not whiners, they're not complainers, and they're generally not very hyperbolic. It's true. What they're doing now is way harder. And we can help with that. We can leave them to do what they do well and what they should do well and what they should focus almost exclusively on, which is building this Bonfire and doing it with their focus completely on this and each other and themselves and their experience. This is what they need to be focused on. We need to help them do the rest. So, like I say, 1 week, I think, is when we're going to get our marching orders. We're going to get the list of things that they need help with. And it's motivating, but also sad at the same time that if we don't do it, Aggies, if we don't step up and help them with it, then they're going to do it themselves. That's motivating, but it's also sad that they're going to buckle down and they're going to do the hard stuff without our help. And that's great. And it's because they would do that we owe them everything we can give them. And let's help them get this squared away. Tell your Aggie buddies, tell everybody. Let's help them get this squared away. Like I say, I think a week we're going to have that checklist, and let's knock it the hell out for them, Aggies. And then let's carry it forward, and let's make sure that there's a long and comfortable future for Bonfire with a place of their own one day. Let's get it all squared away, and let's start this year. Let's give them a home. Anyway, students, we're all proud of you. We're all proud of you. We love your work. You're doing a great job. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for Bonfire. And you let us know, us former students, us dads, everybody that loves you, let us know. And we will help you square it away. Won't we, Aggies? Gig 'em. Build the hell out of Bonfire. We'll see you next week. Gig 'em, Aggies.